Good morning. Good morning, on the couch followers. Those that are woke up this morning and looking for a positive day. Welcome to On the Couch with Dr. Diamond. And I have Miss Rajanta and Miss Michelle waiting in the wings to come in. I hope all is well with everyone and you had a positive week. Remember, coming to this platform, you are going to hear some good discussions about what we need to do in our community and how we support our community and why our content is vital to our community. So let me invite my ladies in so we can get started and let's begin our Saturday morning. Ms. Rajanta, how you doing?
Good morning. I'm good.
Michelle, how you doing? Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
It's
Good morning.
Saturday. You know the sun is out. Do you all ladies see the sun where
do.
you are?
Beautiful. It's
I do.
beautiful.
Okay. Listen, I don't know about y'all too, but I'm allergic to winter. Okay, I just can't do it.
Yeah, me too.
Do it. I'm
This
sick of it.
snow, this snow, we
Ooh.
haven't been having in a long time. We got spoiled not having snow, right? So
Yes.
now we can be icy one day, and then 2 days later it's 60 degrees. So I don't know whether the world's
Okay.
coming to an end, but it's definitely pneumonia weather.
It's
It is
definitely
very
get
useful
out of the
weather.
cold weather. I don't do the cold. The snow is just the underline. When it gets cold and you gotta put a coat on, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
Exactly.
And your
Exactly.
heat's
Me
on
too.
75. Yeah, I'm done. I don't like the cold.
But you know what's sad about the winter time is the gray. It is so gray that people have seasonal depression because of the
Mm-hmm.
gray
Yes.
cloudiness and how gray it look, and their body actually goes with that season where they become so depressed. And if any of you that are listening to us identify with that, make sure you get some help for that, or know that whatever you do for yourself to help yourself get out of it, because it can be quite depressing for a person that's looking out their window and they don't see the sunshine. They become very sad, isolated, woe is me, thinking about how worthy am I? I don't know if you ever come across these people or have you done this yourself?
You know what? I wouldn't say it's seasonal depression, but like I don't like when I wake up in the morning to get dressed for work and there's no light outside. It
Yeah.
makes me want to crawl up in a bed, or when I get off work and
Mm-hmm.
it's dark out already. So it's like I don't feel like I'm getting everything out of my full day because it kind of ends so soon.
I
Yes.
I think for a seasonal depression, it's almost like if you're when that transition hits, it's no more outside. There's no more sunny days. So it's not a mental like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm sad, but it's just like, okay, this is bad. It's cold, it's gloomy, it's
Yes.
gonna rain. It's just, and it's so much impact in that time when the season changes, like around November, late
Mm-hmm.
November into the new year, because you do have a lot of things going on in the middle of that. And on top of it being cold. I don't want to go outside because it's cold.
It's
Mm-hmm.
cold. It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. Look, once it drops below 65, that's cold to me. And I don't even want to attempt to
Really?
go out. Yeah, because I don't like to be
Well, you
cold.
are a
I
summer
can't
baby.
stand it. Yeah, I am a
Hmm.
summer baby. I'm truly a summer baby. August, my birthday's the first day. So it's like August, yes. But then I also say, dang,
It's
September's right
almost
around
over.
the
It's
corner.
almost over. Hmm.
It's almost over.
And mine
It
is in
is.
November. So I definitely, somebody did something wrong. Somebody did something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
I was born at the
Mm-hmm.
wrong time. But then
Yes.
you understand why older people say they want to move south when
Yes.
it's warm in the wintertime.
Hmm.
But you didn't understand it when you were young. But now your
Mm-hmm.
body feels like, oh, I need the warmth. Even my body aches in the
Yes.
wintertime when it's cold. It's
Yes.
just
Yes.
cold.
Yes. And that's the thing. Your body aches. It's dark outside. You go out. Yesterday I went. No, day before yesterday, went to the store. It's 6:30. It's pitch black out there. I said, this is crazy. But I also think, like you said, Rajanta, too, the world is changed. Like the
Yes.
ozone layer is so destroyed
Yes.
because of all of the pollution and everything. I can
Yes.
remember when even in the winter, 6 o'clock wasn't pitch black like that years and at least decades ago. Okay, now it's like, what season are we in?
Yes.
Also in the summer,
And the
sometimes
birds.
the time, and the birds are
They're
confused.
still here. You know, the birds used to fly
Yes,
south.
they
They
are.
are
Yes,
still
they
here.
are.
Right,
Yes,
Hmm.
and
they
they
are.
still here.
Have a woodpecker that pecks on my neighbor's
Wow.
house every
In the
morning. This
wintertime.
guy in the winter, but he goes from my house to the house across. He's
Oh,
hitting the gutters. He's hitting the
Wow.
gutters. At first, I'm like,
mm,
what is that? Until I looked out the window and it's a woodpecker. What are you doing?
In the
oh
winter.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
Hmm.
it's
Okay,
like the
how much
neighborhood
wood would a
woodpecker.
woodchuck chuck?
Yeah.
Really? So, you know what, ladies? We're going to go back to our randoms discussion talk today. And I know the last 2 weeks ago when we got together, we
Hmm.
kind of ended on a note of, discussing relationships,
Hmm.
especially between mother daughter, right?
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And, that was something that I wanted to discuss, this week, because I'm just curious to know, how do relationships between mother daughter breaks down, or just overall children all together, but mostly mothers and daughters, is something that I have ran into with a lot of women that I've come across. So, I wanted to definitely tackle that conversation today, because I'm very curious to how
Hmm.
that happens, on this roundtable talk. So, what do we think about when you hear mother-daughter relationship? What do you think about that when you
You know
hear it?
what? So many things come to mind. I think about my relationship with my daughter. I think about my relationship with my mother, right? I think about her relationship with her mother. So a lot of things come to mind for that, and me having conflict with my daughter, and my mom having conflict with my sister, and then my mom having conflict with her mother. So I mean, I wouldn't say that's something that's generational. I just think that's something that kind of needs time to really um, work healing. I'm gonna say it's done because a lot of things are passed on from generation to generation. I think as far as my relationship with my daughter, I guess I was a young mom, so that kind of played into it as well. Me only having the tools that I learned from my mother, and me having these, I guess, high expectations, if you will, of my daughter.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm,
so because I had her so young, I had these high expectations of her, which I don't think my mom put those expectations on me at all. You know, so because
mm,
I was young, I needed her to do this, do that, be this way, and be that way. Kind of really just forgetting that she's human, right? Like as all we're human. Even kids, we don't look at them as human beings. We look at them as kind of people that we control. They're not allowed to have emotions. They can't really say different things. Children should be seen and not heard, right? Because that's like a lot
right.
that we grew up with. But what I try to do is really cultivate a space as she got older for us to really be transparent, for her to be able to advocate for herself and use her voice. And these are the things that I had to learn as she got older. So as she got older, our relationship changed for the better. But as she was younger, it was a lot. It was a lot of conflict. Like it was a whole lot of conflict because I wanted her to be a certain type of way instead of kind of being authentically, who she was and who she is now.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
it was a lot of rough time, a very, very dark time.
Wow. Wow. I did not have that opportunity to have a long-term mother-daughter relationship because my mother died when I was 12.
Mhm.
So I didn't get a chance to experience what that was like. But my aunt and my grandmother, played a role, like took over that parenting piece of it. So for me, it wasn't me directly being this rough and tough person. It was what happened to me made me this person that was upset, angry, didn't know what to do with the
Mhm.
emotions
Mhm.
and grieving, because I don't know any 12-year-old that know how to grieve properly.
Mhm.
So for me, I always felt cheated and
Mhm.
abandoned at the same time. All of those things was going in my mind, but I didn't know that until I became an adult to
Yes.
figure out that
Yes.
okay, so this is what was happening to me, the grieving part. So did
Yes.
I didn't give my aunt hell, but I think the normal teenager things of
Yes.
talking back,
Yes.
stuff like that. I did a lot of fighting, but again, displaced anger. You don't
Mhm.
know why you're doing what you're
Mhm.
doing.
Absolutely.
But as I became a mother, but see, I became a mother to a son, so I
Yeah.
did not know that dynamic
Mhm.
between really son and
It's
mother,
different.
right?
It's different.
It
I
is
have both.
very
I have one of each. It's very
right.
different. Mhm.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a mama's boy. He will protect his mom. I don't care. And
Mhm.
he'll tell me that too. I don't play that stuff, mom.
Yeah.
I'll protect you. It's a natural instinct. And
Yes.
then it's like, what would it have been like if I was able to be the daughter for many years? But I don't know what that's like. I
Yeah.
have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, it is a different relationship between my daughter and my son. And because my kids are 11 years apart, that's a whole nother thing. I was in a different place in my life then than what I am now. So my daughter tells me I parent him like a Karen, you know, whereas I parented her like Rashida, you know? So,
Mm,
yes.
she see a big difference.
It's a big difference between but I just think that my tools have kind of gotten better. I found out, with the first child, it's really like an experiment. You know, I'm
Hmm.
saying then by the second child, you realize, okay, kids don't need all this stuff. My daughter and I would go on vacation all the time. We'd be doing this and that. She's had every pet. Where my son is like, okay, all we got is chickens. Okay, we go and we go, but it's like nothing urgent. So I felt as though with my
Right.
daughter, I was like just really trying to just overdo it and just thinking I knew like what was best. In all actuality, just kind of loving her and nurturing her and promoting a safe space for her would have been best
Hmm.
at that time. So my
Hmm.
son is like, okay, he has his voice. Like I try to really motivate him, and I just really try to be there in a different way that promotes just the openness and just a different type of relationship. I would say
Hmm.
in itself, it's very different.
Mm, different type of relationship. So here's a question that I have for you both. How do you think mothers should be?
Um, well, that's a hard should be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it depends on how you were raised, how you were brought up, your relationship with your own mother. Um, some things about my mother I know how my mother is. I know the things that she didn't provide. So I made sure that with mine, I had to make sure I provided it, especially for my daughter. She was my first. And I made sure that she had those hard talks that moms don't want to have with their
Mhm,
girls,
mhm,
even the ones that this is what I experienced. And one person, somebody might say, "Oh, she may have been too young," but I felt like, and most people feel like your kids shouldn't be your friend, but I
mhm,
can be your mother and I can be your friend because I told her from a very young age, when you get yourself into something, I'm gonna be the only one to get you out, not your friends.
mhm,
So I wanted to always have that open communication with her where I'd gave them both room to grow. I think I sheltered my son more than her. She's very more adventurous and she's the wild girl and he's the quiet, laid back son. But
mhm.
my relationship with my daughter is totally different than my relationship with my mother, that my mother and I had. Totally different. Um, Me and my daughter can talk and sit and talk for hours, FaceTime for hours, but I don't have that with
Do
my
you think
mom.
it was the era? Because we grew up in an era where children should be seen and not heard, and my mom had those old Pentecostal, Southern Baptist belt values that her mother gave her. My grandmother was an evangelist, and my mom was very religious. So it's just a lot of layers that kind of come with that.
I
Strictness, sternness.
I think that because a mother, I don't want to say a motherless. She lost her mother when she was a baby.
Okay.
My grandmother raised her,
Okay.
and when she took her in when she was about maybe 7, my grandmother had already had a few children, so there's now 6 of them.
Mhm.
And my mom was spoiled by her grandmother, who was raising her at the time. And I think that kind of made her a little emotional. Is it emotionless? Is that a word? She doesn't show emotion. My mom
Mhm.
shows no
Mm.
emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with not really being nurtured by her
Mhm.
own mother.
Mhm.
Like she moved into a home with a mother that was a mother of five,
Yes.
and she didn't have that one-on-one. So when it came to us, it was just like, you're just here. I
Mhm.
do, she does what she's
Yes.
supposed to do as a mother, but there was really never like
Yes.
connection or a bond.
Yes.
But she has that with my sister. My sister and my mother talk every day,
Mhm.
all day.
Yeah. What order are you in? Because pecking order
I'm the
plays a role.
oldest.
The parent of the child plays a role. There's layers to that. It gets real
I'm the
deep.
oldest.
Mhm. And how's
And
her relationship with your father?
who's my sisters?
No, your mom.
My mom. So my grandfather's deceased now, so he
Mhm.
would have been like her father. Her real father was non-existent until he's basically non-existent. We met him when I think I was 16, and they never really kept in contact, and he's deceased too. So she really has no biological parents. So there's no like almost like maternal instinct.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Yeah.
she became a mom based off of what my grandmother seen, and
Yeah.
maybe the love that she didn't naturally receive from her own mom, which
Yeah.
I think is hard.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So again, I do agree with each person is different, and each way a person is raised is different, each household, because we do know, in society they tend to say, society will say, well, all Black people grow up the same way. That's not true. However,
Mhm.
there's a commonality with generational ways of doing things,
Yeah.
and I understand the part with age and what they learn and how to express. I can remember my grandmother wasn't that person that was expressive either,
Mhm.
so you know it was like, okay, so what do you do with that? I think though what we take from that is, what will we do differently? you
Yeah.
know how will we say things differently? How will we express that? Because do I want my child to be more expressive? Because you don't know. If a person doesn't tell
Mhm.
you that they love you, you don't know. You're just assuming or guessing that, right? But it's a long lineage of this behavior.
Yeah.
It's not like it just popped into their life one day. This is before them and before them and before them. So when you really think about that, could they express themselves to their children on a plantation? No.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame I'm older, and kind of me having kids really allow me to give my mom more grace and be more
Mm-hmm.
compassionate to her plight and just different things that she went
Mm-hmm.
through. And she raised us with the skills that she had, which, I think that, she did what she could do. Even though I
Yeah.
sit there sometimes, and now that I'm a grown up, my relationship with my mom is different. So we can talk about different things. I'm not afraid, 'cause my mom put the fear of God in me. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
afraid to just, really advocate and just say,
Right.
my thoughts, and which is, even with my daughter, then my daughter's 24 now. So she graduated from college. She's doing well. She has a good job. She still gets on my nerve, but our
Mm-hmm.
relationship is different because we're in a different space now. So, I mean, I just think it's different depending on what stage you are in your life, what stage the child is in their life. And I didn't allow that. I didn't allow for that space. I think for that friendship when she was younger, because my job, I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to raise you, and actually me
Mm-hmm.
being stern on her, like my mom was stern on me. You know, I don't think that also that breeds like room for like a positive type of relationship,
Right.
open type of
Right.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious to know, though, I've come across again relationships that were damaged early on in a young person's life, and they end up saying, I don't even know why my mom, don't like me, or didn't believe me when I told her something happened to me. She doesn't believe me. I've come across many women that have said, my mom accused me of trying to take her boyfriend, and the girl might have been 7, 8 years old.
Hmm.
It I'm wondering, how would a mom get to that place that she would actually say something like that? Like,
Mhm.
how do you get there where you believe your daughter is your competition
Mhm.
versus this being your child? So I'm just wondering where, we'll probably never get an answer, but where would that really come from where you would get to that place that you can actually be that way with your own flesh and blood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's I don't know, because that's a whole nother, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it happens, and it probably happens more common than we think, or kind of not believing, your daughter, not believing your son. I mean, because we know our
Mm-hmm.
kids, uh,
Right.
but also when they go outside of our home, we don't know what they're getting into. So I'm one of those type of people. Like,
Yes.
you know your kids, but I mean, sometimes, we think we know our kids and find that we don't really know our kids as well as we think we do. You know?
Mm-hmm. Damage that comes with their a mother-daughter relationship, or some damage, or if this is their language. I've seen mother daughters curse at each other, argue with each other, fight each other, different things like that. Those are a recipe of destroying the relationship, you know um just like when you're calling your daughter a b, where does that come from? You know what I mean? Like, why? How does she think of herself if you're the person calling her that? What would that be like when she goes out into the community? You know what I mean? When she early on, starting young, and you calling her all these names, or you're comparing her to another child in the home,
Mhm,
just making it difficult for her to grow up.
mhm.
Because in the end, I, as a therapist now, is trying to help this person get through this, trying to understand how and when did this happen to me? When I was born, was I not supposed to be here? What happened? Why did I get turned on? Or if you don't like the father, then you don't like the daughter. I mean, it is just
Yeah.
so
And
many
those are all
layers.
reasons, and those are all different, everything you said, those are
Yeah.
all different reasons as to why different things happen. And not only, in African American families, but it kind of happens throughout other cultures as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, kids are not supposed to be there. Sometimes they have the baby with the married man who ain't really want the baby. Sometimes they don't like the father. So sometimes they're not ready to have a child. So circumstances.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of different reasons that affect different parents and parenting and the way they kind of choose to raise their children.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was there's this video on YouTube. I should have shared it before our talk, but it was a young girl who was um shot multiple times by her abuser. But
Mm.
she was saying how how her mother was. She didn't have a mother. She moved from foster homes to foster home, and sometimes it's even foster care.
Mhm.
Those situations. Sometimes it's just generational. Like, how did your
Mhm.
mom, the child's mom, talk to her? How
Mhm.
did your mother get talked to as a child? So I think
Yeah.
that, and sometimes it's that thing when you know better, you do better. But how do you know any better if you haven't seen any better? Because
Yes.
in the
Right.
community, it might be normal for some people to live like
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And some people feel like they really have to be hard on their children because
Mhm.
society is going to be hard on
Yes.
them. So even
Absolutely.
when
Yes.
you're parenting like Karen, you're like, you gonna get it in the real world? Are you gonna understand?
Mhm.
But then it's like, should I, because it's something that you struggle with. Am I gonna
Yes.
be like Rashida, or am I gonna be like Karen? And how do I be in the middle? Because
Yes.
many times I probably heard a man say the world's gonna suck him up
Mhm.
if you're not tough on him. But why do we have to be tough? Why do we have to show our children that they can't show emotions and be
Yeah.
Right.
be human, like you said earlier? Just be human. It's okay to
Mhm.
cry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
It's
think
okay.
society doesn't allow for that. Different emotions kind of may be looked at differently. Different emotions may be looked at as weak, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and depending on who share, especially for men, you know,
Right.
whereas they
Right.
kind of have all this pent up anger and animosity, from not being able to express their anger, just have to be kind of stoic. So,
Because then you look at TV and you look at the news and you see how a child kills their parent. Like,
mhm,
Right.
how did we get here?
How
mhm,
did we get
You
here?
see a
Right.
prominent, and then they
yeah,
say, "Oh, the family was prominent. They're well known in the community, and they're good."
mhm,
How did
that
we get
speech,
here? Because most people, You don't live behind closed doors. You don't know what somebody's experiencing
That's
behind
right.
closed
Mm-hmm.
doors. So
Mm-hmm.
then there's the case where you say when you go to tell somebody, they don't listen.
Mhm.
It goes to deaf ears. Child goes to school and saying somebody's doing something to me, and they're like, "Oh no, no, it's not," or enough people not paying attention.
Yes. Yes.
Right, right.
Um,
Can build a wedge in
yeah.
between the child and the parents or parent,
Mhm.
the one that is not listening. So, what? How
Yes.
does the child make you listen? Well, it may result into violence, like you said.
Mhm.
I don't know if you all seen the series of the girl that's a grown woman now, Gypsy Rose. I happened
Oh.
to watch her
Mm.
thing in the
Mhm.
Munchausen with her
Yes.
mother, and
Yes.
then she got to the point where it was enough.
Yeah.
But she got to that point, and like she said, I had to tell my narrative, my story, because
Mhm.
people need to understand how I went from this to this. Not that like she said, not that I wanted to kill my mother, but she got to that point where freedom
Mhm.
spoke to her more than being felt like a prisoner,
Yes.
by what her mother disease was. And her
Yeah.
mother disease was Munchausen, which
Mhm.
by proxy. So everything was, this girl was being having surgeries on her body, and she was healthy, a healthy person. So it's just so much that comes with that. And then when you think about the urban community, if we can just isolate that area, growing up in a poor community, or you're around so much, you're exposed to so much,
Mhm.
and then your family tries to keep you out of the street as
Mhm.
much as possible. Growing up in the crack era, okay, was really tough. I'm gonna speak on that because I can really talk about what that felt like for me growing up in the 80s. So, crack hit the Harlem, or everywhere really, 84, right? For me to recognize 84. Okay, you move into the neighborhood. I just moved into my grandmother's neighborhood. And don't get me wrong, the neighborhood wasn't even bad like that. But the problem was drug dealers was everywhere,
Mhm.
each on two sides of the street. So now my grandmother and my aunt had to figure out, okay, now they're up against this element, right? And how do we get them to understand their value? All I remember a lot of discussion was get your education. My grandmother was always saying that, go to school, get your education, go as far as you can go. Because when she was growing up, she didn't get a chance to go that far. Because
Mhm.
when you're in the South, you stop school at a certain age, depending on what you have to do when you're growing up. And she did. And she was more like the cook at a restaurant,
Mhm.
babysitting white people's
Mhm.
children. That was her jobs.
Yeah.
Okay. But when she instilled that, go get your education, don't be in the street, it's not a good place to be. My mom was also a teen parent, which she probably did not want for her daughter. As you all talked about expectations, she had expectations for all of her children. My grandmother wasn't a single parent. However, she was a victim of domestic violence. I can say
Mhm.
this because
Mhm.
this was her narrative. My
Yes.
grandfather wasn't always nice to her, but guess what his story was? He had PTSD. Who
Mm.
would have labeled that back then?
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
didn't have labels for that. So you don't know why this person is jumping up, running out into the middle of the street like he is
Mhm.
in the trenches. These were the things he was really
Yeah.
doing.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
in his mind, he could have saw her as enemies most of the time, but he
Yeah.
drank a lot also. So there
Mm.
was a lot going on there.
Yes.
But then, as you talked about being human, so now I understand, wow, he was human.
Mhm.
My grandmother human, she made her, decisions. I don't think her parents were fluffy, love you, hugging them. No, because you know what they had to do? Work the farm all
That's
day.
right. They didn't have time. Mhm.
And it was 12 of them.
Wow.
Wow.
So this narrative is just so growing up in the hood, it was pretty tough. You had to get up. I had to focus on going to school, making sure not dodging bullets, because these
Mhm.
fools were shooting
Yeah.
back and forth to each other, fighting each other. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, these fools was acting up, but they didn't care about what was around them.
Mhm.
So then, if we think about that, how, let's step outside of my family, but the family in any urban neighborhood,
Mhm.
they're up against the outside element.
Yes.
How do you parent against that?
Mhm.
Because that
It's
thing
hard.
can lure your children out
Mhm.
there.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
it most likely we've seen that it lowers your children because at that
Mhm.
if that's the case, mom, dad working two jobs and
Yep.
you come in, you make dinner, make what you can, and then you're back
Mhm.
out the door. So it's little time for, hey, how you doing? How was school?
Yep.
There's no sit down and have dinner together. That's one thing that I wish I had did with my children. Sat
Mhm.
down and had dinner. Like sometimes I'm like, where did we eat? Well, what did I cook for y'all? Because you don't remember, like so many, and some of that
Yeah.
is trauma that
Yeah.
you're just in the moment and you just do, you're in
Hmm.
Yeah.
survival mode,
Yes.
survival mode.
Yeah, my daughter
And
told me I'm constantly. She's told me that. I mean, we have that relationship now where she lays it down, like, "Mom, this is what it is," and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that authenticity, and for her to even just be, courageous enough to tell me what it is, with care and concern. And we sit in, and I'm like, you know what, you right, like you are right, you
but
know.
but but
Hmm.
in a sense, there's also nothing wrong with gentle parenting. There's nothing wrong with being a gentle
Well,
parent.
it depends. All kids are different. I would say all kids are different.
Yeah.
Definitely, some kids need to be jacked up, but not all not all kids. Not you can't parent all
Not
kids
all kids. Every
gentle.
child is different. Every
Yes.
child is different. I'm telling you. My
My
kids
daughter and
Right.
her family, they sit down at dinner together every night. Literally sit at the
nice.
table, no cell phones. They sit at the dinner. How was your day? Everybody gets, so when I go over there, I'm on my phone trying to eat my dinner because I'm used to eating by myself. I don't have to sit at the round table with
Yes.
nobody. And my grandson's like, Grandma, you got to get off your phone. Like, leave me alone. I'm the grandma.
You're the child. Exactly.
Right.
Right.
But I love that they have that family unit
Mhm.
where they do sit down so that it gives him a sense of where he came from and
Yes.
how, it makes it better for him. So to
Yes.
see even you saying your daughter like you were hard on her, but to see her thrive,
Yes.
even though you were so hard on her, is like,
I'm
okay,
telling you, when I say it's like the best, like when I just look at, us and our relationship and the conflict we have, for her to still be able just to thrive, I'm just like, girl, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think our children have expectations of us?
Yeah. I do.
Yes, I did think do too. And
Yeah.
they may not know how to convey it, but you know what their expectations of us is? Unconditional love.
Yes.
That's really what it is. And I think I learned that from my son, but I think I learned it more from my granddaughter. Like she
Mm,
unconditionally loved me. Like
mm,
everything is Mimi, okay? And it's genuine and it is heartfelt. You can feel it. And I
wow.
feel it from him too, because and that helps me be more
Mhm.
open with emotion with
Yes.
them. Especially it started with my son really a lot, but it really helps because when you're coming from a place where emotion is not shown, but
Yeah.
then as a collective family, we agreed on something as we started getting on the Zoom and COVID was happening, that we did get on a Zoom, tell each other that we love each other, even down to my uncles would say that. I never thought my uncles would have said that, but it shows you how much that we had to get away from not saying
Yeah.
it to saying it
Yeah.
because it means
Yes.
something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It really
Yes.
does. So we moved away from what my grandparents didn't do, which
Mhm.
was not to convey that you love the
Yes.
person that you are in this family with, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
So I can really safely say we did move away from that. So expressing that feeling of
Yes.
love to another person, and then Shell, like you said, sitting at the table, when my son was growing up, we did the same thing with him too. We sat at the table, we would eat dinner. And it's funny, Jordan will actually come and say, Mimi, let's sit at the table and have dinner. Like she promotes
Mhm.
that with us. And that is a good thing that at this age, she's asking for that. So that's
Yeah.
why I was talking about expectations.
Yes.
Do you think our children
Yeah.
expects us to do things, especially like our daughters. That
Mhm.
expectation, like my granddaughter, what would be her expectations of me? Does
Mhm.
she look at me as the person that's going to be positive and positive outlet in her life? Am I
Mhm.
going to be the person that put her down, and then she's disappointed? So those are the things that, I see, like, what are
Yeah.
our kids having expectations of us? So you all agree. So I would
Yeah.
love to hear what else.
Absolutely. They definitely, I think for my kids, they definitely expect me to be consistent.
Hmm.
So I want to be consistent, and in the moments when I kind of can't, because sometimes I need time, sometimes I'm exhausted. They tell me, "Well, mom, you decided." They tell me you decided to have a family. They say they said it was your choice. You decided to have us. So now you gotta parent
You
us. They
gotta
tell me
show
all the
up.
time. They tell me I gotta still show up. So my kids are very open and just say what they need to
Johnson,
say. Yeah, that's why I'm always tired. They wear me
I,
out.
I love it though. I love it that they're honest. I love it that you have open communication. Shell, you too. That's something that I practice also with my son. And I thought about that at a young age when he was little. I said, I want to have open communication with this little guy because the personality was so big, right? I was
Mhm.
like, I wonder what he's thinking. So, as the mother, when you're watching, this goes back to how do you discipline this child or raise this particular child, because you have to see what they're like, because they have
Yes.
a personality, so you have
Yes.
to adjust to that personality. You have
Yeah.
kids that are truly stubborn. They're
Yes.
not going to do what you're telling them to
My
do,
son is
so you
very
got to
stubborn.
figure out, how do I get through to this kid? What do I do? Because as
Yeah,
a mother, it's a lot of work. We don't
it
get a
is.
paycheck.
It is. It is. But I look back, I was very stubborn too. So I look back on
Okay.
myself, and like for my son, like I always tell him, like, you were stubborn in my stomach. Like you were 10 days late. So it
Ooh,
started from
stubborn.
the womb. So I
Hmm.
saw like just different pockets in him, even as a baby, growing up into that stubbornness. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's something. It is something.
Well, he got it honestly though,
He
because he
does.
said
That's why
you.
I can't be upset. I can't be upset because he's a Virgo. We're all Virgos. My
But
daughter's a
see,
Leo.
Oh
that's
yeah,
a
Got some
all of
Virgos.
Virgos are stubborn. My son was stubborn too. I have to make y'all laugh
that's
at
my
this.
mother.
He was. Let me see. Wow, he might have been a few months old. No, 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 probably 7 or 8 months old. This kid would not allow people to pick him up. He just refused. So my brother walked over and picked him up over the couch. Do you know he became stiff like a board?
I
So
do.
my brother handed him back to me. He said, "What child does this? Is this normal?" He said, "Who would do this? Look at his body. Look at him." And he was stiff. He was. I said, "Put him down."
He knew
Once
what
he
he
put him
wanted.
down, he went back to what he was doing. I said, "He doesn't want you picking him up." That's the bottom line.
Mhm.
Yes, girl. Stubborn, stubborn. He barely wanted me to pick him up. So I knew my brother wasn't going to get a chance. But girl, I laughed so hard, I'll never forget it. He was so upset too. He said, what kind of kid does this? I said, Tajay.
Bet you he ain't pick him up no more.
He didn't. He did not. So I know y'all Virgos are something
Yeah.
else, boy. Stubborn,
Mhm.
stubborn. Yes.
That's my mother. She's a Virgo.
Stubborn. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh
Your
my
mom's stubborn
goodness.
too.
Mhm.
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 I'm working on it. I
She
just
be
think
like,
of it.
don't tell me what to do.
Yes.
I don't want.
Yes.
And you say something like she thought her husband gets rid of her stuff. Like if it sits in the garage longer than he thinks it should, he'll get rid of her stuff. So she calls me the other night. She was like, "You got my curtains?" And I could hear him in the background. I was like, "Yeah, I got them. Bring me my curtains." I was like, "Nope, your husband gave them to me." Michelle, bring me my curtains. I said, "You wasn't doing nothing with them curtains."
Mhm.
Mind you, I know nothing about curtains. Did nothing about what she's talking about. She called me for 3 days
For
Yeah.
until
curtains.
yesterday about some curtains. He can't give my stuff away. I'm gonna go out in his tool shed and I'm gonna get rid of all his tools. We're like,
All this
oh,
curtains. I
okay.
can't.
Are you serious? You don't have no, ma'am. I don't have your curtains. She called me yesterday. I'm so sorry. I found my curtains.
After
Yeah,
all of that,
yeah,
she found
yeah, yeah. She went on for a week.
All right. That's about right.
them. Wow. Wow. That is funny. So
Even Virgos will not talk to you. Like if they're mad, they just won't
Yes.
talk.
yes,
They do that at our
yes,
house. They do that at their house. And we're like, how do you just not talk?
Yeah.
You walk
yep,
right past somebody and not talk.
Yeah.
Who
yes,
does that?
It's bad. It's not right.
yes,
It's not normal.
yes, yes, yes.
But at least you recognize it.
It's not It's not right. It's not right. But I
Mhm.
say I'm a work in progress. So
All right, that's it.
Uh-huh. It's not your, it's just a part of who they are, because I'm telling you, my son does the same thing. If you make him mad, but they are not easy to make angry like that. At least him. He
hmm
can take a lot. Like he can sit there,
yes.
you can just keep coming at him, right? And he'll just go, uh-huh, okay.
hmm
And then maybe a day, like a couple of hours later, he laughing with you like nothing happened. And I'm like, wow, like he would never stay upset with me. Like I can correct him, he'll go okay, and he's not going to show that in front of me. And he might be really upset or not, but he'll come back like, I'm telling you, like nothing happened. I'm like, wow, isn't this something? But other people will say, yeah, your son is just so cool, he's laid back. And because it take him a long time to get angry, like,
hmm
and I wish I had that quality, because as a Leo, man, we pop off in a second.
hmm
What?
hmm
We cross you off the list. We
Yes.
do everything. We do everything. We live by that
Wait,
sign.
you
Like
ladies are
we,
both Leos?
I'm not. I'm a Scorpio.
Okay. You sting. Okay.
yeah. Oh,
Real
oh,
bad.
yeah.
Like
She's
this.
staying. Yes,
With a smile. Like I'm gonna get you.
with a smile. Isn't that funny how the signs can actually, you live up to those signs and you don't even
Yes.
realize you do these things, and
Yes.
how you operate in the world is just so funny.
It
So,
is.
next question I have for you both is about influence. Has
hmm
your mother's influenced you in any type of way? And if she has, what has she influenced you in?
Hmm. I think that we are all influenced by our family's values, and the beliefs. And as we kind of get older, some of them we take with us, some of them we leave, some of them it's like we have to unlearn certain behaviors because we realize that they're not healthy for us. I think for my mom, I mean, so many. Something that I don't do that she used to do. I'm not like heavily religious. I'm spiritual, but my
Okay.
mom was like revival, church every night on Sunday, Sunday school, and she was Pentecostal, so no pants, no makeup, prayer cap, stock is no. So it was like a whole big, you know.
Mhm.
So that's one thing I kind of got away from because of my mother. And I also worked very hard. We were very, very poor growing up. I mean, food stamps and food pantry poor, you know? So one thing I tried
Mhm.
to do for my children is I worked really, really hard so I won't have to so they can have little stuff like lunch money, trip
Mhm.
money, like picture money. We can go and kind of eat when we want to eat. So that's one thing that I've kind of worked hard at, but to a fault, I feel as though like I worked too much. So some moments I kind
Yeah.
of missed out on because I was like, just really serious about kind of not falling back into those values of kind of just being poverty stricken.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. So, what I'm going to tie into our discussion is about empathy, right? I'm going to move into that topic because it does apply in this conversation. So, what I'm going to do is actually read the definition of empathy, and then I'm going to follow up with some of the questions, okay? Empathy goes beyond concern or sympathy. Empathy is stepping into the shoes of another with the intention to better understand and feel what they are experiencing. It is expressed in our choice to be fully present with someone and listen beyond their words for their feelings and unmet needs. Knowing that at least one other person gets what I'm going through is the gift of empathy. The power of empathy can bridge our us versus them perception and lead to new solutions, improved relationships, better strategies for social change, reduction in loneliness, and realization of our shared human needs and oneness. This conversation is about sharing experiences, giving, receiving, and observing empathy. So what do you both think when you hear the that overall definition of empathy and then apply it to what we're talking about today, mother-daughter relationship?
Mhm.
So when you read the definition, one thing that I don't think the one thing I think I've gathered from this conversation, because I've spoken it out loud, is try to have empathy for my mother because she didn't have a mother and she didn't know better. So I
Right.
get that. But then there's a side of me that's just like, you can't always get a pass at some of the things you do
Mhm.
because you were because of whatever your issue is. I don't know what people, I can't say pinpoint it. But I can show empathy for people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Some people sometimes get more of a pass, I think, than others because I feel like their trauma is greater. But sometimes if you don't know a person's trauma, how do you have empathy for them?
Mhm.
That's hard.
Right.
How do you provide, how can I show empathy for her if she doesn't express
Yeah.
any like emotion?
Yeah.
So it's hard. And I think at Christmas time we had a conversation about one thing you wish you had, I guess when you were younger or something.
Mm.
She wish she
That's deep.
actually had the opportunity to meet her mother.
Mm.
If we never had that conversation, I would have never known that,
Mhm.
which leads me to
Mm.
believe, like, was there trauma in the home?
Yeah.
Um, and it may not be physical trauma, but emotional trauma,
Mhm.
not having her physical
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah. Do you think she's afraid to be vulnerable? Because sometimes being in that vulnerable space is very scary.
I don't know. It's such a, I mean, I've talked to my sister about it because I'm like, your mom really drives me crazy. She gets on my nerves.
Mm.
Like, my mother has no filter,
Mhm.
no filter. Like, you could walk on and she'd be like, girl, you look like you got fat. So yesterday,
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
she just recently retired, right, from a nursing home. She was a director at the nursing home. And she called us. She was like, oh, I'm about to go see my residents. And then she called us when she got back. She was like, they were so happy. She was like, this one guy said, you sure do look like you got fat. And I
Mm-mm.
said, oh, he gave you a piece of your own medicine. How did you like it? She was like, it was rude. And I said, that's the same thing you are. It's rude. So sometimes she just doesn't think about what she's going to say or how it's
Mhm.
going to affect
Mhm.
somebody else. She just,
Yeah.
and when you tell her, sometimes she's just like, oh, well. You're
Mhm.
like, okay.
Mm.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
So it's hard to show empathy when
Gotcha.
when somebody has a I don't care attitude.
Mhm.
Like, what's your
Yeah.
problem?
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
which is a reason why me and her just, I think the last day I went over her house was Christmas Eve.
Mhm.
New Year's Day when I left there. And I didn't go back until maybe like last weekend. I need my
Yeah.
space. Like, I need
To regroup.
separation.
Mhm.
I need separation. Because there's somebody else you would probably curse out for doing or saying something stupid.
Yeah.
But you do have to remember that's your mother, so you can't say certain things. So you're like, let me just back up and take a pause. I'll see you on FaceTime when I see you on FaceTime, because I think for 2 weeks I didn't answer. My daughter's like, Mom, you ain't get on our FaceTime call. Y'all be blessed with your call because I cannot.
At least you send them blessings. At least you send blessings their way. That's something.
Y'all have fun with that. I sit here and watch the phone ring. I am not answering y'all FaceTime calls.
Yeah.
I think it was for 2 weeks. They're like, get on the call. My daughter texted me, nope, nope, I'm protecting my peace.
That's right.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And that's
But you
okay.
know your limitations, and that
Mhm.
that is truly okay, because instead of you stepping out of that, you know what you see as protecting you is stepping out of there, and then
Yeah.
you're showing a side of you don't want to show.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
I think you're doing a good job by saying, no, I don't think I'm going to get on there
Yes.
because I can feel it. You know, I can
Yeah.
feel something is going to happen. I feel like I'm going to say something
Yeah.
that I can't take back, you know? So you
Mm-hmm.
feel that, and that
Absolutely.
is a good thing. And I'm
Mhm.
thank you for being honest too. It's, you know, it's something for us to smile at and hear from you and say, hey, you know what? Look at Shell, human. She
Yep.
like,
Yeah. I had
you
to
know
do it
my
for my own
limitations.
father.
That's right.
I do
That's
it for my dad too. If he called me too many times, I tell my sister, tell your dad to stop calling me. I'm about to block him. I will block him. Don't text my phone. You texting my phone at 7 o'clock for what? 7 o'clock in the morning. What are you texting me for? And why are you texting me every day? And I think that comes from years of just being missing and you were never
Mhm.
able to provide, like, I
Mhm.
could never come to you
Mhm.
between the age of 0 to how 47.
Mhm.
You can't give me a lick of advice. You can't give
Yeah.
me a nickel.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But you try
Well,
to have empathy, but then even when you try to help somebody and they know everything, what you call me for?
right, right.
What
So
you
what's
call
the
me for?
point, right? Hmm.
Gotcha. I
Hmm.
mean, I think for me, I'm more empathetic because of my own traumas, right? So my own traumas and my own past experiences just make me more empathetic to others, and what they're going through. But as you say, certain people can take advantage of that. So certain people take advantage of that and utilize that and kind of just really try to suck you dry. So it's just really looking out
Mhm.
for those type of people, setting boundaries with those people. But I think that I'm empathetic because of my circumstances, because of my trauma. So I think I connect with others because of that as well. And not trauma bond, but I'm open and I understand. Like I understand, like girl, I done been there, done that. Okay, and I've been through it, done wrote the book, you know?
Yeah. Well, empathy. I tend to be empathetic, and like you said, there's limitations to who I'm being empathetic to. Because yes, people would take advantage of you, and they do the woe is me after a while, and you're like, who am I really being empathetic to?
Hmm.
The woe is me person, or who are you? Who's showing up right now?
Yeah.
So I had to learn that too, because people can be an imposter in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you showing empathy to their imposter because they don't even know who they are. And you got to fall back and say, hold on, because this recently happened. It's a real experience that I had. And I'm not going to go through the details, but it's within my family, something happened. And, at first I was showing empathy because I was like, okay, it's two sides to every story. But then I realized I was talking to the imposter.
Mm.
Then
Mhm.
I had to fall back and say, okay, that's not what's going to happen here. I'm going to control this particular type of narrative and the empathy that I'm showing. I got to fall back now and watch how this is all going to play out. Because, yes, you have users.
Yes.
And then another experience of me showing empathy is understanding really my father's story. My father too, Shell, was the person that was in and out, in and out, in and out. Now
Mhm.
we all in the same neighborhood, Manhattan. Every once in a while he'll come walking through, and my dad has passed on now. In this 2023, he had passed in September. However, we
Condolences.
never I you know what? Thank you for that. But we never built a solid relationship until later on in my adult life,
Mhm.
because he had a rough good upbringing with his grandparents, but they were very religious. So Rajanta,
Mhm.
he would be able to relate to you. Okay.
Mhm.
Very religious. And but on the other end, his mom, totally different. She was like a gangster, basically. She didn't play that. She just was one of those women that you got the wrong one. And she also groomed her son to be like, you're not gonna let
Yeah.
nobody take advantage of you on the street. So translate that to you having kids now.
Mhm.
So you rough with them too.
Yes.
There's no grace there. But then where empathy began to come in is when he started telling me his narrative.
Mhm.
That's when I saw the human being. And I said, wow, look how many years it took for me to see the human that I didn't even know you were a human being. Because I
Mhm.
thought you was this rough, tough guy that everybody was afraid of. And I'm literally telling y'all, people in the street was afraid of him. We all 11 children that he has can walk the street without a problem, because
Mhm.
that's how much he was feared in the street. But the problem is your children feared you exactly the same way. Like we
Wow.
didn't know what the hell you was going to do to us. And we should have never felt like that. But again, I learned later, everybody has a narrative.
Mhm.
That's when I became more empathetic to him. And I said, okay. And that's when my relationship began to build better with him. Was it tight? No, but I seen it more of an improvement that I
Mhm.
actually was able to say, all right, I'm gonna let my guards down and let him in, because I have been burnt by him before, especially
Mhm.
when I went to college and he was supposed to help me get my books
Mhm.
and stuff. No, didn't happen. And then I had show empathy. That's why, Shell, when I said something about the imposter and your face change, it's because we are talking to imposters most of the time. We don't know the real person because they don't know themselves.
Mhm.
People like us that are beginning to develop and know who we are, we're going to show up as self, right? And we're going to give you who we really are. So if
Mhm.
I say to you, sometime I can be abrupt. You know Michelle enough to know I can be abrupt. Yeah, you be like, yeah, Mo is like that when you get a certain way with her. So she's going to
Right.
show you this part of her. So you wouldn't be surprised. Someone else would be surprised by that, and you would be the person to say, but she mean no harm about it. She's just telling you what she
Mhm.
sees,
Mhm.
right? That's
Right.
it. But that's you getting to know me as the real person. I'm not showing you a fake person. You are getting the real, genuine me.
Mhm.
But that's you, me knowing me and showing up as me.
So that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
And people showing up as an imposter. And I liked the imposter, but I do not like
Like
the
the
real
person.
you.
Yeah.
I, I don't like who you show me you are now. I don't like that person. Bring the imposter back. Because some people are just not good
Yes.
people.
Yes.
They're
I
That's
don't
very
think
not.
they're not good people. They're just imposters.
and maybe they don't know
Oh,
how to
they're
be.
an imposter.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
you, and you get
Mhm.
so angry at yourself because you're like, damn it, you fooled me.
Mhm.
Fool me
You
again.
fooled me.
Yes.
Dang.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a lady. I know we're getting close to the end, but I'm gonna give you another example. Recently, I was at the Walmart, and you two ladies tell me what you would have done. A lady approached me, and first thing she said was, "I like your hat. I just had a regular beret on my head, okay?" And I said, thank you, because I'm not going to be rude, nasty to people. That's just not what I do. She came back and she said, oh, you have a pretty face. I said, oh, thank you. Then all of a sudden it was, let me tell my story. So here she is. Oh, me and my grandchildren, we came down here from the upper part of New Jersey because my grandmother passed away. She's 91. She was 91 years old, but we have no way back. I
Mm.
said, ma'am, unfortunately, I don't carry cash, and I really don't.
Mhm.
I truly don't. However, I had to think to myself because I said, where are your grandchildren? That was the question I asked her because she was in the Walmart by herself.
Mhm.
If she had grandchildren with her, that's one thing. But also, I got to also realize, who am I talking to? Am I talking to a person that will use her grandchildren to get money because she may have other motives,
Yeah.
right? And I think again, that's what she was doing. The only thing, they weren't present. So
Yeah.
I had to be cautious here and say, no, ma'am. I just could not just
Mhm.
openly just give you money. But after she walked off, she was pleasant about it. She said, thank you for listening to me. But at that moment, I said, God, forgive me, because I don't know if she was somebody
Mhm.
you sent my way. I have no
Yeah.
idea. But
Yeah.
I
Right.
said that
Right.
openly to God in the store. I said, God, please forgive me, because I don't know if this lady was destitute or not, but I don't
Mhm.
know what I was up against either.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I wouldn't have did it either.
I get it. Somebody
Yeah.
got me in the Wawas, and I actually ended up buying stuff for the grandchild. And I'm like, well, you're not getting no sandwich. The grandbaby picking up all these snacks. You know,
See?
I was
Yeah,
upset
no
after that.
sandwich, no soup, nothing. But Shell, like you said, this is a whole different conversation. And I would love for us to talk about imposter syndrome so we can actually have other people that listen to us understand who shows up in front of you. Because
One of
there
them
are,
just called me JK. Just K. I don't want to have that. I don't want to be a part of that discussion because I might disclose just too much. So I'm just going to sit back and listen. I'm just gonna sit back a little bit.
But it's one of those discussions
Mhm.
where, just like you just did, I'm telling you, you all that are looking at us right now, and when you watch this later, watch Shell's whole body language. When she woke up, she said, "Wait a minute, imposter," because you know why? You related to that. When I said it to you, you knew exactly what I was talking about because you've seen these people who present to you one way and they present a different way. Because once they get that empathy, they got you.
Mm.
And that's the thing that people do. And this is where you say, I don't want to say people are evil. That's okay. You don't have to, but their motives is not always good.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that's what we have to be cautious about.
Absolutely.
So anyway, ladies, we are at the end of our show. I'm telling you, this was a good discussion.
It was.
However, like always, what is your takeaway for our listeners for today from this roundtable talk about mother-daughter relationship, and then, of course, the closure of empathy?
I will say that always keep your line of communication open with your children from a very, very young age. Um, they need to know that we're going to protect them at all times, no matter if they're 2 or they're 22, 52. I'm gonna always be there to support you. I think that when you have the line of open communication and they do run into something, you can be there. My daughter's like my best friend. She's my best friend. I could say that. That's my girl. My boy will protect me. We have a different kind of relationship, but we do have a very open relationship. So, I guess it's just to have open communication and be the best, show up and be the best parent you can be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say just continue to grow each day. And I want to thank my daughter Jayla for giving me grace, through it all. Just giving me grace and just me having self compassion for myself and just seeing her as a young adult and her seeing me as an adult as well, in addition to a parent. So I appreciate that. So I just want to continue to kind of just really just take stride in each day and just not second guess myself and my opinions as it comes to the way I parent my children, even my adult children. So.
hmm And for me, for all of those who have had the loss of a parent at a young age, know that the people around you that choose to raise you, um, try to express to them what your loss is about, what you're feeling and why you feel the way you feel. When you do something wrong or you step out of line, go back and apologize to them, because they don't have to take you in, they don't have to help you, they didn't have to do any of those things. I
Mhm.
learned that as I became older, and it is very hard when you lose your mother, because that person is who you bonded with since you were in the womb. So when you lose that person at a young age, again, you don't know what to do with that. So, of course, I could not relate today to my two fabulous co hosts because they have that mother daughter relationship. Mine was cut short. So I couldn't tell you what it was beyond the age of 12. But I admire the fact that you can tell me your narrative, you two. And those of you, again, if you don't have that, build it with the person that did raise you, and just remember, hey, um thank you for what you have done. I've done
Mhm.
that for my aunt. I've thanked her every day, about every time I talk to her, and I do it in little ways.
Mhm.
And I know she probably doesn't realize it, but because she sacrificed staying around to make sure my brother and I were raised properly. And then as far as empathy, I empathize with her because she made the sacrifices. And I
Mhm.
appreciated that, even if times that I gave her a hard way to go, but I learned fast, real quick with her, because she was very stern and consistent. That
Mhm.
consistency is what made me say, oh, I can't play with her, one and done or two and done or whatever. But I was smart enough to figure
Mhm.
that out, but also know to show empathy. So I would say everyone has a narrative. Every
Mhm.
parent is human. Every parent has a story just like us. Let's give them grace. because they do deserve it. And like Shell said earlier, there are limitations. Know your limitations with your parents too. You're now a grown up, so you know how far you can go with them and know your triggers, and then, deal with them accordingly. Okay. And then that's all we can do. But other than that, thank you for joining us today on the couch. We look forward to seeing you again soon. And this was a terrific discussion, you ladies, and you enjoy your Saturday. And all of you that are watching us, thank you and take care and have a good weekend, the rest of it. Enjoy.
Thank you for joining on the couch this evening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and if you want to contact Dr. Diamond, you may reach her at candidconversations.dr.d@gmail.com. Have a great evening, and we will see you on the next show.